Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Oswego Alumni Podcast. The views and opinions expressed in this episode are those of the guests and do not necessarily reflect the views of the Oswego Alumni Association, SUNY Oswego, or any of its officials. Email us with guest ideas or any other feedback at alumni@oswego.edu.
Welcome to the Oswego Alumni Podcast. I'm your host, Dee Perkins. Coach Jason Leone is the 17th head men's basketball coach at Oswego State. During his first 8 seasons, Oswego has the most wins in any 8-year period in program history and ranks first for total wins in the East region during that time. There's a lot to cover here, so hang on. In addition to qualifying for postseason in each of his 8 seasons, the Lakers have an impressive 15-4 record in the SUNYAC Championship. This includes 8 consecutive semifinal appearances, 5 championship title game appearances, and 4 championship victories, as well as 3 regular season titles. Oswego is 6-0 in first round games and 11-0 in conference tournament games played in the Max Zeal Gymnasium. Programs qualified for postseason play in 18 straight seasons, which is the longest active streak in the conference. Over the past 9 seasons, Oswego's played in 6 NCAA Division III championships. Coach Leone is currently 17th nationally and number 1 in the East region for career winning percentage among active Division III head coaches. We are so lucky to get this busy guy to talk to us. Coach Jason Leone, thanks for being with us.
Dee, thanks so much for including me. I'm really looking forward to our talk.
Oh my God, that was so much to get through, and I'm not a basketball person, but you have so much success, and clearly you work really, really hard. I've got you right now probably on 4 hours sleep.
Yeah, so I was just, on my normal cycle of work here during this time of year where I'm running basketball camps away from campus and then also traveling to recruit for this upcoming season. So life is busy, but I wouldn't know it any other way.
So to start it off, to be completely honest, the truth is this is the Oswego Alumni Podcast, but you are not an Oswego alum.
I'm not, but I've got multiple ties to the college. My brother and sister, who are twins, are both alums of the college. My brother was a captain on the men's basketball team in 2001 for Kevin Broderick, is who he played for, who's an alum of the college. And my sister graduated, that year as well. So I spent a lot of time in Central New York and in Oswego during my life. And when I got this opportunity to come back and teach and coach at Oswego State 14 years ago, it was the opportunity of a lifetime.
Tell us about your alma mater and your experience there.
So I went to the University of Rochester, and obviously a short distance away from Oswego, New York. It was a world-class education. I actually didn't start my degree there. I started at a small liberal arts college in Pennsylvania called Lafayette College, another really strong academic institution. And I was a basketball player there. I actually played for my uncle, who was a coach there. And, I had some things happen in my career where, quite frankly, I wasn't good enough to play at that college. It was a Division I college, and kind of a tough thing to go through as a young student athlete. We had a coaching change, and the new coach came in. I just wasn't really good enough to play at that level, but I didn't want to lose my experience as a player. So my 2 options were stay at that school, which I loved, Lafayette, and not play basketball. Or if I wanted to finish out my experience playing, I was going to have to find another school to do so. I didn't want to sacrifice my academic endeavors. So I was fortunate enough to find a school that academically was very strong and was a little closer to home, and it gave me the opportunity to play basketball at a strong Division III program. And that's how I ended up at Rochester.
How did that coach, the new coach that came in, how did he tell you that you weren't really good enough?
He was honest. He was a legendary coach. Obviously, at that point, I was 20 years old. So, it wasn't something that, was very easy to hear. Especially typically when you play at the Division I level, you go through a lot of time during your upbringing in sports. And you're used to putting in a lot of time, and then typically the result is you have success from all the hard work you put in. That was the first time in my athletic career where I put in a lot of time, and a harsh reality of life is sometimes we do all the right things, but we don't get what we want. So looking back on it now, as somebody that's approaching 50 years old, it was an experience I draw upon with my own players and my own children. And it is tough as it was to go through that from an adversity standpoint. It's something down the line that has really helped me.
I find that people who go through tough times or rejections, they carry that with them almost more than the successes. It almost, you inherit that feeling of what it was like to not make it, and it stays with you for the rest of your life.
Yeah, it's really hard when you're actually going through it, especially emotionally. You're at a different stage in your life in your early 20s. Now I look back, and I played for a Hall of Fame high school coach, and I played for 3 great head coaches in college, and I got a chance to have a greater network with my professors and my friends at both colleges. Typically, when people transfer, there's something they don't like about the college they leave. Like, I left Lafayette College with a really good taste in my mouth in terms of the experience that I had. And then obviously at the University of Rochester, that's, I'm an alum of now, I loved my experience there as well. So I was very fortunate. I grew up in a very loving home, had 2 great parents, and I was fortunate. They had the means to put me through college at a place that I really wanted to go. And one thing that's changed over my career now is, certainly financing college education is a challenge for all families now. So things were a little bit different, 25, 26 years ago. But you look back at it now in my late 40s, and I'm like, wow, I really had some very influential experiences that were central to the person I am today.
Your first job out of college was Bill Mitchell's grad assistant for SUNY Potsdam back in '99.
Yep.
What led you to suddenly say, okay, I'm no longer really going to be a player, but I still have the passion for the game. I want to be a coach.
So when I graduated from Rochester, my first goal was to try to play maybe a couple years professionally overseas in Europe. I thought it would give me a great combination of, I wasn't going to make money that was going to be life-changing wealth, but it was an opportunity maybe to get paid doing something I like while also seeing a different part of the world. I had an unfortunate injury right before my senior year in college to my knee. And I was able to come back and play my senior year, but it really opened my eyes to starting to focus on things beyond just basketball. One thing that I had a goal of was I wanted to attain my master's degree. And one way that I financed that was by coaching basketball. So they had jobs that are called graduate assistant positions where I was able to go. The college that I worked at allowed me to coach basketball while also financing my master's degree. I looked at 3 or 4 different opportunities at different schools. The one at Potsdam made the most sense to me because, I was going to be putting myself through my graduate degree. The SUNY cost made a lot more sense. The program that I studied made a lot of sense. And then I had an opportunity at Potsdam through a basketball sense where I had a lot of responsibility there at an early age. So I wasn't totally committed to being a coach. But then after about 6 months on the job, I was like, I think this is what I want to do the rest of my life. So, and then, things kind of went forward from there.
Is Coach Mitchell someone that you pattern yourself after? Is his style of coaching something it still lives with you today?
So I think every coach that I worked for, I worked for 3 different head coaches during my assistant coaching portion of my career. And all 3 of them have given me different things that I draw upon as a head coach now. They all had some special qualities about them that I use now during my head coaching days. But of course, Bill holds a special place in my heart because he gave me my start in the profession. And although it was only for a year, there was some great things that he entrusted me with, and he provided me with great mentorship. So it's certainly something that I'll always be grateful for. And he actually just retired from Potsdam He moved out of coaching and got into administrative roles on their campus, and he just retired a short time ago. We actually just had a celebration for him in the last couple of weeks here. So it just means, he's not forgotten. It just means I'm getting a little older now that the people that I work for are starting to worry about retirement, and I move into the second half of my career.
Right. Now you're the one that the players look to, and you might be bringing along new coaches.
Correct.
Right. What
Yep.
went into you choosing Oswego as the next step on your career ladder? You talked about you're from here. When did they post a job, or did your sister reach out? How'd that work?
So, Oswego, essentially offered me the job after going through a normal interview process. But I had some ties to the college that I think made my name a little bit more recognizable, maybe than some other candidates. So, the athletic director that hired me, Tim Hale, at the time back in 2011, was actually the track and field coach at the University of Rochester when I was a student there. So I had a work study job when I went to the University of Rochester, and part of my work study job was I reported directly to Tim Hale. So, and then the coach that preceded me here, Adam Stockwell, him and I were childhood friends and played a lot of basketball together growing up. So when Adam left, it was late in the summer, and he took a job at Hamilton College, and Adam and I were close. He knew this might be a job, being that I'm from Central New York, that I might be interested in. I had ties to the college, and I knew many of the current players that were here. So there were some things that, drew my attention as we go. But the main thing was obviously being back home with family. So my wife now, her and I were dating and talking about getting engaged and getting real serious. So, it's funny. I took the job in August of 2011, got engaged 2 weeks after, bought a house 2 weeks after that. And then we were married at the end of my first year. So I had a lot going on that first year.
Wow. That is a lot.
All good things.
Yeah. The best year of your life, right? 2011. Yay.
Yeah, I would say so.
I went into your Twitter because I do my research, and one of the posts that you had really kind of blew me away. And it's from Tom Brady, whether he's good or bad, we're not going to go into that. But he talks about what it takes to be an athlete from childhood on. And I thought you resharing that basically showed me how much respect you have for athletes. Can you talk about that a little?
I do. One of the things that I've found to be very important as a coach is you've got to be very adaptable and you've got to collect knowledge. And listen, I find it a responsibility in my position to kind of practice what I preach, right? So I talk to my players all the time about how important education is and how important improvement is. So one of the ways that I've used social media, I wasn't on it at all before COVID. And then I had one of my former bosses, Sue Viscomi, encouraged me to start to advance into a more technological approach in my coaching methods. So once I got on Twitter, they call it X now, I found it as a great resource to learn a lot of different things about my job. One of them, motivational tactics. I find things about schematic tactics in basketball and the way to teach the game. And obviously you find out a lot of information on great leaders and great athletes. So one of the things that I do with my Twitter handle is when I see something that I really like, I repost it for a couple reasons. One, I like to share with other coaches that follow me, but then the other reason is it's a way that I won't forget it. So I go back and kind of look at my handle when I sit down and actually plan for upcoming seasons. But with that particular quote that you're mentioning, one thing that struck with me was the simplicity in Tom Brady's thoughts about what it takes to be really good. And essentially what I thought he was saying is like, there's got to be an element of dedication. There's really no substitute for hard work. And then there's going to be points in time when you, face adversity or things get tough, and really getting past hard is a really important quality that you need to have. So I'm paraphrasing some of the things that, Tom was talking about, but they're all very, very important things that young people and adults can learn about in terms of competition.
Sacrifice. He talked about, little kids who get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and go to football practice on a sweltering July day, carrying their gear and working all day on the field, and then coming home being exhausted at night. These are kids. And knowing the next day you're going to have to get up and do it again, most importantly, while your friends are at the pool or just hanging out or doing whatever, and doing that again and again and again. And some people may look at that sacrifice as crazy, you know?
Yeah.
But I have found in my later years that being part of a team, being part of an athletic team, it's less about the individual achievement and more about building a community of people who are like-minded.
Yeah. So I agree with all those things. And, I have a unique thing in my job at Oswego where I also teach 3 courses. So one of the things that it allows me to do is it allows me to stay connected with an athletic mindset, but also academia on our campus. And the thing that I try to always tell the people that are professors on our campus is, although the classroom experience is central to what our students do on this campus, one of the great things about being a student athlete at Oswego is there's experiences that you can get on our playing services that can't be replicated in the classroom setting. And I think that there's also things that happen in the classroom setting that aren't replicated on the court, but they certainly coexist in a very meaningful way.
What are one of the classes that you teach?
So I teach 3 sections of a health and wellness promotion class that's a required course to get your coaching certification in New York State. So it's a very common class that students will take if they're thinking about going into a teaching job at the high school level, and they have to get certified to coach in New York State. So they do those things. They have to take this class in order to get this certification and get the coaching minor. And what a lot of people don't know is in our curriculum at Oswego, the coaching minor is the most prevalent or popular coaching minor on our campus.
Wow, I had no idea. So it means any kind of coach, baseball, soccer, football, they all have to take this course.
Correct.
Oh, wow. What are some of the tips on health and wellness that we should know?
Well, I don't know if I have tips on health and wellness, but I think one of the things that we talk about, so I try to take the things, like any teacher, you take the things that obviously are required, the topics that you cover, objectives you cover on your syllabus. One of the things that I think I try to bring to the table for our students to take this course is to draw upon some of my personal experience, like the real life stuff. So, how to communicate with parents, how to deal with problem solving methods within coaching realms. I talk about how to deal with administrators and ask for things that might not be, prominent thoughts of a skill set you need to have in order to be a good coach, but more real life experiences dealing with people. I think about, quite frankly, things that sometimes coaches have problems with, or we see in my profession, coaches get fired a lot, or have difficulty in things like communication. I try to talk about a lot of behind the scenes stuff, so my students are really prepared, if they are able to attain a job, about how to handle those day-to-day challenges that coaches face.
I think about most people who go into coaching say, I want to be on the field and I want to work with players and I want to make those players better. But coaching actually involves so many other skills.
Oh my God.
Yeah, including scouting, running practices, mentoring your own coaching staff, and dealing with the media. What do you work on the most? What do you think is your great? And there are other things I didn't mention, but what is the challenge for you that you work on that you try and get better at?
Well, I think having great perspective on the profession is really important. So, when you're a younger coach and you're not established yet, I think it's just a natural progression where you tend to be a little bit more focused on winning games at a younger age. And I think as you get older and have more experiences, one of the things I've found is that you still can be very competitive while having great balance in your coaching philosophy and methods. So to give you an idea, I think, you just made mention of a really good point. Like, one of the biggest fallacies in coaching is that coaching is about what happens on the playing surface each and every day. And as a player myself, I remember going into our basketball facility every day for practice, and you see the coaches kind of, around 4 o'clock, kind of have maybe their feet up on the desk, they're in shorts. They might be talking to a recruit or talking to another player or having a sandwich before practice. And you think, wow, this is a pretty cool job. But you don't see all the other things that go into being successful in this profession. Like, again, dealing with parents, dealing with, one thing is, like, you have 15 players typically, or sometimes more on a basketball team. Like, these players come from very diverse backgrounds and very different home lives. And you never know behind the scenes when you watch a basketball or football game on TV, all these different things that are going on with all the people's lives. So when you're on a sports team, there's so many different things that go on behind the scenes. And as a coach, one of the things, back to your question, that I really think about is how important communication style is, and how important it is to truly get to know all of your players and your assistant coaches and the people that are your support staff around your program. I think one of the things, as I moved into the second half of my career, that I'd like to think I've improved on a little bit is just having good perspective that, like, yes, winning is at the forefront, but you also have to have other things that you focus on other than just a result-oriented approach. I think process is really important. I think consistency is so important. If your players or people in your organization come in and they have no idea what to expect from you from an emotional standpoint or a preparation standpoint on a day-to-day basis, I think that provides a lot of problems for coaches. So I've really focused more of my attention on, just being the most prepared person I am, and then really enjoying my job on a day-to-day basis. So even if I'm having a day where I have something maybe at home that's going on, or with the other facets of my job, when I walk into that practice gym for those 2 hours, I want my players to see me with a smile on my face and really try to be focused on them for those 2 hours. So those are some things I think over the years that I've been able to focus on and maybe get a little bit more better at. But that's just age and experience is where that comes from. And you live and learn, like, you're going to make mistakes. I think one of the things I tell people all the time is, listen, I make many errors in every year in my job. But I think there are opportunities for growth and learning. And I think the second that you stop embracing learning and growth and adaptability, I think that puts yourself at a disadvantage when it comes to effectively doing your job.
One of the things that I saw an interview with you as the season was progressing, and you talked about one of the athletes threw up, I guess, in the middle of the game or at halftime, and he came back on. It's just like,
yeah.
How did you balance in that moment? Are you okay? You're a dad of two young girls. So there's a part of you that has to be like, are you okay? And do we need to get, do we need to get hydration? Do we, like, what do we do? Versus, well, the game's on the line and you're really great because he came back and scored 30 points. So
yeah,
in that moment where he was sick, say, what's my role here?
Well, obviously we have a certified athletic trainer at all of our events. So I'm certainly far from a health expert. So the first thing you obviously do is you rely on the health professional to tell you if the player is fit enough to play. I think that particular story, the genesis of it was the player was a little nervous because we were playing in a big game. So that ended up being more anxiety and nerves than anything else. And if I'm remembering the story correctly, I think the purpose of the story was to commend that the player was able to get refocused and play a really, really strong second half.
That's an amazing story. So in the off season, I imagine everybody thinks that you're sitting home eating bonbons, watching hours and hours of Netflix and enjoying your air conditioning. And that is not what's happening. So last week you ran a practice for Arise Above All Athletics. It's in Syracuse. And tell me a little bit about the program and how you got involved.
Well, one of the things, again, I really did a deep dive into, my professional career during COVID. It was a year that was very challenging for many people, but I wasn't coaching a team for the first time in my adult life. Our season was canceled, and I'm not a guy I'm not good at remote work. I'm somebody that enjoys being around people, and I enjoy helping people, right? So one of the things that I did I started my own private LLC. And one of the things that I do with that is I do these remote camps called satellite clinics. And basically what I do is for student athletes or basketball programs that maybe can't afford to attend our camps, I basically take the camp to them, where I travel. It's a secondary source of income for me, but it's more about me being able to promote our program. And a lot of times if high school or club coaches are able to see me do my work in person, down the road, that could be a beneficial relationship for us to attract a player. But this particular program that you're asking about is run by one of my former players and an Oswego alum, Chris Gilks, who's still in Syracuse, and he does great work with the Syracuse boys and girls clubs. And his program is Rise Above Athletics, and his son actually plays for him. And he asked me to come and do one of these satellite clinics for his team. So I went there, and a typical day, I ran a 2-hour practice with these young players, and was able to talk to them about what it takes to be, a committed basketball player. And I talked a lot about skill development and improvement. And obviously try to give a message on a personal level to them as well.
And you're returning to your former alma mater, CBA, and running a co-ed basketball camp. What do you get out of training the next generation of college players?
So again, I think when I look back on my childhood, one of the things that, really got me into basketball was I came from a coaching family. So my uncle was a head Division I basketball coach at Lafayette, where I started college. And one of my pretty neat memories growing up was going to his overnight basketball camp every year as a child. And my dad would take me and my brothers down. We'd all attend the camp, and he would coach at the camp. He was a camp counselor. And then my other uncle, who is a volunteer coach at CBA and has been so for 30 years, he used to go down and coach at the camp. So, you go to these basketball camps, and a lot of times you don't realize it when you're going through it, but they're very influential things that go on during the summer. You meet friends, and, you have a lot of laughs and fun in these basketball camps. Yes, the primary focus is on learning the game of basketball, but there's also all these other things that you do there where you have a lot of fun and have a smile on your face, and you have special guest lecturers that come in. So I wanted to do something at my high school. A couple things. I live 5 minutes from the high school. It's a little bit. It gave me an opportunity to extend beyond Oswego County and do something in Syracuse, where I grew up. And then also, I think it's a mutually beneficial relationship with my high school. That's a private high school where me running the camp there, it's bringing over 200 kids to their campus. And they're a private institution. So essentially for them, part of their model for enrollment is obviously getting as many people to see. It's much like a college where you're trying to get as many people on campus to see your organization, your facilities, the way your place, looks and feels. And a lot of times having fun, people will remember where that happened. And then a big part of me choosing Lafayette as a school was the fact that I went to those camps for 10 years growing up. So all those things played a role in me starting this camp. And, I've had a lot of people behind the scenes that have helped me grow this thing. And now it's something I assume it's going pretty well because we sell out all the weeks every summer. And I have a lot of fun with it. And a big part of that is because it's at my alma mater.
I love that it's co-ed, and seeing the growth of the WNBA. I know you're the dad of 2 girls. Are either one of them excited about playing basketball, or are they like, that's dad's thing?
That's a great question. I've been talking a lot about that, with other coaches and family friends lately, more so in particular this summer because my oldest just turned 10. But they're both gymnasts right now, my 10 and 6-year-old. They're both really into gymnastics. But recently, my daughter, my oldest, has been asking me to kind of go to the gym, go to the park, and work with her on basketball. And just from a parental philosophy, I don't want our children to feel like because I'm a basketball coach that there's some sort of a responsibility on their end to play. My wife and I are pretty aligned with our views on things. We want to make sure our kids, value their education. We're both, we were both really good students and really committed students, and I really enjoyed the values that our educational process brought to us. And it's one of the things that we really have ingrained in our children is how important school is. So that's one thing. And then we also want them to be involved in some things outside of school, extracurricular, co-curricular activities that involve them being active and meeting other people and having to be involved in a group and having to coexist with other people, whether that's sports or not. We've left that up to them. But, I don't want them to feel because they're in a gym a lot watching me coach or coming to my camps that there's an expectation on our end. So my rule with my daughters is just, dad will never say no if you want to work on basketball, but you've got to come to me and ask because I don't want them to feel any pressure to do so. And kind of the neat thing about them right now being gymnasts is I don't know anything about the sport. So it's nice to sit in the stands and watch them compete. There's a lot of really cool things about gymnastics. It's more of an individual sport, although there's a team concept. And I think it's been great for them to be more confident women. And it's very difficult to go out in front of all those people and perform when all the spotlight is on you. It's a little bit different than normal team sports. So, and my one daughter, I don't know much about it, but it seems like she's pretty good. And I know she's very dedicated. So to this point, that's been more at the forefront for her.
You posted a great picture of her with a trophy. I couldn't tell from the picture how big she is, but let's imagine that, she's this big and the trophy is this big.
That's right. Yeah.
I was like, I think dad helped carry that one home.
Yeah. We've had some pretty cool moments with her to this point. Again, I'm unsure how good she is. She does pretty well at these meets. It's the results portion of it has been nice because it makes her happy, but it's not an expectation of ours. I think, I'm very process oriented with this thing. I just, I think that's one thing about coaching that's helped me. And, the parenting portion of my life is, I'm really a big believer that, if you your approach is everything, your mindset is everything. And if you set yourself a goal and you follow your routines on how to attain the goal and you're disciplined in your approach, typically, if you have some gifts, and some ability, you're probably going to achieve what you want to more so than them. But I don't really talk too much about that with her.
I always have a last question, and I've been playing ping pong in my brain right now, trying to decide which way I want to ask it. The last question is usually the Oscar speech. And if you were being handed an Oscar, who in your time at Oswego or in your career you would like to thank? But there's a reverse in my head, which is, you've been a coach for so long, and I'm wondering if there are players that you would like to shout out who maybe have made a difference or you feel deserve a little bit of the spotlight. So it's usually it's dealer's choice, but for this time, I'm going to say which, you actually can have it both ways. Are there people that you want to thank who helped you along the way? And also, are there some players that you just kind of want to give a shout out to? It's very hard. It's like having 100 children, and now I'm asking you to pick a couple of them, right? So
Yeah.
I will leave this one up to you.
Well, it'd be very difficult for me to choose or pick any players. All the teams have had, when you coach long enough, one of the things is you get, when you're at a place, a fairly long time, which I have been now, and we've had a great deal of success. I don't think that there's anything singular about what we've done. So to pick out one or two players, I mean, obviously there's some players that have had, a certain exceptional status. Players, you're on a team, so there's going to be some players that are more individually gifted than others. But part of what makes what we've done so special is we've had so many people that maybe do things that don't get the most attention that have also been really important in terms of contributing to our success. So that's managers and student assistants and assistant coaches and athletic directors that have made it possible for me to stay here as long as I have, and have given us, appropriate resources. So to call out individual people probably wouldn't be responsible on my end. I think, one of the things that we kind of talked about off air that's really important is, coaching is such a unique profession because there's not it's very difficult to plan as a family person when you have this job. There's certain times during the year where I have a lot of downtime or hours where it's like, oh, this guy's really present. And then you can flip a switch, and then there can be a portion of time where you really feel like you're a rotten dad because my children and my wife, they have to share birthdays and important times that a family typically can plan for and spend together, where I'm not always the most present father. So if I had to recognize one thing, it's like, it's truly a team effort when it comes to my wife and my children, them being really supportive of the things that I need to do this the right way at Oswego. It's very difficult to have a really successful career with very successful teams without a lot of people sacrificing. And, my wife is a very driven and successful career woman. And, during the months from October 15th to March 15th, there's a lot of points in time where she can feel like a single mom, so for her and I to be aligned, and trust me, there's very, very tough things like in any marriage that go on. She's probably the person that really has sacrificed and influenced our program the most, because I can't work as hard as I do. There's nothing easy about this. And the sustained success is probably the thing I'm most proud of, because I think in sports, you can have 1 or 2 year periods that are very successful, but then it's really difficult to sustain 20-win seasons over a long period of time like we've done. And I don't deserve the credit that I get for a lot of this. It's truly about everybody in our community of people that have wrapped their arms around this and made it so special. And we're still evolving and improving every day. And I think that is something to be very proud of as well. But, quantifiably, people will notice the wins and the championships and the NCAA tournament wins. But really, my family, my wife and kids, without them, I just don't see how I'd be able to make the sacrifices to go recruiting. And like my mother-in-law is up here watching our kids now. My wife's in California for work this week. I had to go to New York City, and my mother-in-law came up from Scranton to kind of watch the kids for 2 days and transport them all over for their practices and school and half days, so I could go recruit, and if I can't do that, I can't effectively put the kind of team that on the floor that, you're probably the reason I'm getting interviewed by your prestigious podcast is because of the success we have. Well, if I'm not that successful, then maybe it's not as, as I'm not as worthy an interview. I don't know, but I know that's a little long-winded, but I certainly deserve, my wife and family deserve a lot of credit.
That was not long-winded. That was beautiful. And it's an amazing man to admit that the people behind him are making all of this possible. So you did great. That was a wonderful answer.
Thank you, Dee.
So I'm going to let you get back to your very busy life. Thank you so much for making time for us. You can find Coach Leone on the Oswego Lakers website. His email is jason.leone@oswego.edu. And on Twitter, which I very, very much recommend. Oh, we're calling it X now, right? Yes. On X at Leone_coach. Thank you for all you do for Oswego. And we're looking forward to the start of your 13th season coaching in the fall.
Awesome, Dee. Thank you. I've done a lot of these over the years. This one was, you do a great job, and I really enjoy the smile that you bring and all of your enthusiasm for Oswego State.
Oh, thank you so much. Yellow and green forever. And if you want to reach out to us with guest ideas, find us on Facebook or LinkedIn, or you can email us at alumni@oswego.edu. We're always looking for ideas from our over 92,000 alumni. I'm Dee Perkins, and we'll see you next time on the Oswego Alumni Podcast.